This is the abuse narcissistic parents train their children to do. It's abhorrent. Let's dive into a tough topic today: the subtle ways narcissistic parents train us to endure abuse. Ever wondered about the behaviors they taught you to accept as normal? You didn't choose to like it, but over time, it just became woven into what you believed was acceptable. One of the biggest issues is gaslighting. Narcissistic parents will deny the truth, twist events, and make you question your own reality. As a child, you end up doubting your emotions, memories, and even your sanity. This sets you up to accept emotional abuse without realizing it because it feels familiar. The saddest part? This tolerance follows you into adulthood. When someone else gaslights or mistreats you, there's a part of you that thinks, I guess this is just how people treat me. But today, we're going to break that cycle and uncover how you can recognize and release these damaging patterns. Stick around if you're ready to redefine what healthy relationships should look like. What kinds of mistreatment were we conditioned to accept? Emotional manipulation is one example. Narcissistic parents use feelings as a tool to control, often making children feel guilty or responsible for the parent's emotional state. This type of manipulation deeply affects children, making it hard for them to establish boundaries as they feel compelled to fulfill the parent's emotional needs. Another type of mistreatment ingrained in us: constant criticism and shaming. Narcissistic parents often tear down their children's self-esteem with endless criticism or comparisons, telling them they're never good enough. Such conditioning leads children to downplay their own worth and accept poor treatment as normal. The silent treatment and emotional withholding also become common. Instead of resolving conflicts, narcissistic parents may cut off affection, attention, or communication altogether. This teaches children that neglect is acceptable and makes them reluctant to address issues directly, fostering a fear of abandonment. Then there's a tactic of unhealthy triangulation, where narcissistic parents pit family members against each other to keep control. By creating tension and confusion, they make it difficult for children to trust others or form secure relationships. This divisive strategy ensures the narcissistic parent stays at the center of control. Blame shifting, scapegoating, and refusal to accept responsibility also teach us to endure unfair treatment. Narcissistic parents deflect accountability, often designating one child as the scapegoat for the family's problems. This dynamic encourages the child to absorb misplaced guilt and shame, making them more likely to accept blame even when it's unjustified. Constant cycles of affection and rejection are common with narcissistic parents. They can shower their children with overwhelming attention and praise one moment, only to withdraw their warmth completely when their child does something they disapprove of. This unpredictable behavior creates confusion, teaching the child that love must be earned by pleasing the parent. Another form of abuse we learn to accept is excessive control and invasion of personal space. Narcissistic parents often feel entitled to oversee every decision and even violate their child's boundaries. They may invade privacy by monitoring behavior or dictating personal choices, making the child feel they must submit to the parent's will and lose their sense of autonomy. Emotional dependency is another hallmark of narcissistic parenting. Children are often made to feel responsible for managing the emotional well-being of their parents. The child becomes so focused on adjusting to the parent's emotional states, anxieties, and desires that their own needs are neglected. This creates a toxic cycle of codependency, where the child sacrifices their own desires to keep the parent happy, losing touch with their own identity and needs. Lastly, fear and anxiety are powerful tools for control. Narcissistic parents often induce fear, either through overt threats or more subtle forms of intimidation. This constant fear keeps the child in line, afraid to voice their own needs or challenge the parent's authority. The relentless anxiety prevents the child from developing healthy independence or self-confidence. Narcissistic parents often teach us to endure emotional neglect by dismissing or minimizing our feelings. This behavior might involve telling us we're overreacting or that our emotions are insignificant. Over time, this condition encourages us to suppress our emotions, leading us to believe that neglecting our feelings is just part of life. Another form of abuse we learn to tolerate is boundary crossing. Narcissistic parents commonly violate personal space, treating their children as extensions of themselves. This may happen through physical overreach, emotional manipulation, or disregarding privacy. These actions normalize the experience of disrespect and undermine a child's sense of independence. Now, what are some practical steps for differentiating yourself and healing from these patterns? Start by asking, what parts of this still show up in my life today? For instance, are you continuing to accept disrespect from others? Do you still tolerate a lack of autonomy where others disregard your personal space? These behaviors are often carryovers from our childhood experiences, but they can be unlearned and transformed with time and effort. Next, ask yourself, how am I doing these things to myself now? Are you emotionally withdrawing from yourself? Are you neglecting your needs? Do you find yourself making decisions out of fear or anxiety? Are you invalidating your own emotions or thoughts? The negative side of this realization is that I've internalized these harmful patterns. But the positive side is that, as an adult, I have the power to change how I treat myself. While I couldn't change my parents as a child, I now have the ability to change the way I treat myself and heal from those old behaviors. Focus on building a self that is self-aware, emotionally regulated, and clear in its boundaries. For more guidance, I've provided a free training video below that I think could be really helpful. You'll find 84 minutes of valuable insight and tips. Also, there's an online course I highly recommend if you're ready to dive deeper into this work. If you found this content useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate your time and wish you a wonderful day. Stay wise on your journey.